Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Karma Cards. It's been another interesting week in energy. Hopefully it feels really expansive for you. It looks like we had another timeline jump a couple days ago. The Schumann resonance had a large period of blackout again, and usually that means some timeline shifting. So I feel like things are shifting upwards, and hopefully you're feeling that too. The other thing that's happening in energy this week is we're coming up on the new moon in Gemini, and that's happening on Saturday, June 17th. Had to think about that. June 17th, we've got a new moon in Gemini, which is going to be all about helping you manifest and expressing more clearly that which you are trying to create. And that's a great segue into today's message from the team. And that message is to remind you that the universe is responding to who you are. So I really want you to think about that. The universe is responding to who you are. So whatever it is that you're broadcasting out, that's what you're receiving back. And many times we're not paying attention to that. Now I think with this new moon, it's going to help us get really clear about what is it I'm expressing? What am I telling the world with my with how I think about myself, with the thoughts I'm speaking, with how I'm expressing myself, even how I dress and appear, because all of these things help to broadcast a message out. I was watching an episode of Schitt's Creek recently. I just started watching that show again. And for those who haven't seen the show, just go along with me. There's a character in there, right? And the character, he lives in a barn. He's got a full beard. And one of the main female characters, who is a rich, wealthy person who dresses like in all the trappings of rich and wealthy, sees this person and starts making assumptions about him based on what he's expressing. And there, of course, there's all these hidden layers, right? We're so much more than what we express, but what we express is part of how we attract. It's part of how we attract. So if we're showing things like, as an example, if we don't spend time on how we're dressing or appearing, maybe we are, here's a great example, even your body picks up cues based on what you're expressing. So if you work at home, I work at home, and you're wearing pajamas all the time. I used to be so guilty of this. Years ago, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. I can just wake up and kind of get right to work. I don't have to take my pajamas off. I can be more productive because I'm not having to spend time thinking about getting ready, and I'll get ready later. But what I didn't realize is I was constantly feeling tired and exhausted and not as productive as I wanted to be. No matter how much coffee I was drinking at the time, didn't cut it. Until I learned that your body takes subconscious cues off of how you dress. So typically, when people get into their jammies, what are they doing? They're telling their body it's time to wind down, it's time to go to sleep. And their body, there's a natural unconscious association with pajamas or whatever you're wearing at night and relaxing and sleeping. So on one hand, I was trying to be really productive, but I was dressed like I was relaxing and going to sleep. And I was sending mixed signals to my brain and causing unnecessary confusion, brain fog, slowing down, all because of the subconscious signals I was sending to myself. It's just like when you want to work out. If you're working out in pajamas, which I also did that, thinking I was being super productive and thrifty with my time, I would try working out in my pajamas. And again, your brain is like, wait, what are we doing? Am I supposed to get work? Am I supposed to work out here, or am I supposed to relax? And so it's like, it wasn't gelling. I was sending mixed signals. And in that way, I was also creating sort of an avoidance to doing it because I wasn't putting myself in the right mindset. And clothing really does help you do that. Just like what's like, if you want to work out, put on workout clothes and you'll feel more motivated to do it. The signals you are sending to yourself and to the energy at large is like, I'm here to work out, right? So one of the ways we express, obviously, is through clothing. And if we're not conscious of what we're expressing, if we're not doing it consciously, then we can be sending mixed signals. And that includes to the universe, right? It's like if I want to be productive, but I'm showing up as sleepy or relaxed or like I'm about to go to bed, that doesn't kind of gel together. It's like you can't quite overcome that. And we do this with our thoughts. Even if we're not doing it with our clothing, we do it with our thoughts. For example, I was working with a beautiful client today who really wants to be open and in receiving and abundance, right? That's where she wants to be. And that's what she's like, this is what I keep asking for. I keep saying, hey, give this to me. But her mindset is focused on the lack, on the things that aren't working, on the doors that seem to have closed or aren't. She's even going into the past in comparison on how well it was working before, and it's not working as well now. So what she's really doing is broadcasting this. I'm broadcasting pain. I'm constantly thinking about the pain. Every once in a while, I turn and I focus on what I want, but when that doesn't come right away, either instantly or within the next 48 hours, then my mind goes right back to this. It's like, oh, I asked, but nothing happened. What we have to realize is that our mind works like a radio. I love this metaphor because it makes so much sense, because we're tuning into frequency. So if you imagine that you want classical music, or classical music would represent the abundance and the flow of life, but you keep turning into the hard rock station that you're not into. It's like the station that every time you turn on your car, it's always playing. And you're like, oh, I want classical music, I want to relax, but you never change the channel. Then you are broadcasting, this is who I am. This is what you're going to get back. As soon as you consciously switch over and start listening to the other channel, start focusing on that, then when you turn on your car next time, that's what's going to be playing, right? So the universe is responding to who you are. It's responding to what you're thinking about. It's responding to what you're saying about yourself and your life, and it's responding to how you're showing up for it. So if I, for example, wanted to be, I don't know, high-powered CEO, but I show up in like these flowy dresses and like lots of crystals on and wearing my sandals and flowers in my hair, you understand, like that's not a match. No one's going to take that person seriously unless that person literally has a brand that starts as this sort of like flower child, and that flower child becomes the CEO of her business. In that scenario, sure, but how likely is that going to happen? It certainly isn't going to be inserted into a scenario where the established is someone who is, you know, presenting as professional, ready to go into a board meeting at any minute, you know, ready to give a presentation, looking crisp, looking clean, looking sharp, and ready to go, right? So this isn't, this conversation isn't about saying, oh, you have to look a certain way to get what you want, but you do have to fit the vibration. Just like, you know, we like to play with juxtaposition in our society as well. We love that, right? Like everyone's like, oh, that's so rebellious, and look what you're doing. You're breaking the mold. And that sort of works and it sort of doesn't work, because again, subconsciously mindset, like, can you work from home in your pajamas? Yes, people do it all the time. Can you maintain that? Can you train your brain to see pajamas as productivity? Yes, but then think about this. When you want to go to bed and relax, if you've trained yourself to see pajamas as productivity, what's going to happen to you when you try to go to sleep? Now what do you wear, right? What do you do? Like, so you can definitely break molds. You can go against stereotypes. You can break the grain, but at the same time, your brain's associating what you're reflecting outward with a state of being. And in this message, it's to get you to think about, okay, what is my state of being that I desire? How do I look when I show up for that? How do I act? What do I think? What do I say? How do I act? How do I show up? You want to think about that. And a great way to do that is to actually spend time in meditation visualizing that future, that outcome you want. So for the person who wants a lot of financial abundance. They're not spending time thinking about the lack in their life. They're looking at how abundant they already are. Oh my gosh, these clients are coming in. Oh my gosh, this money is coming in. And money is like any money that goes out just seems to come right back in. So I don't stress about the money I have to spend because I know I'm investing it and it's coming back. It's going to have a return on my investment. That's the mindset. That is the way that person is thinking. They're not focusing on, like, oh my gosh, it's getting really tight over here. I've spent a lot this month and the returns aren't as great. And because of that, I'm worried that it's going to continue. You can hear it, right? You can hear two different mindsets. They do not exist in the same bands of frequency. So the message from the team is consider what it is you keep asking for and asking yourself, are you showing up as the person who receives that? If you are a person who wants to be in a loving relationship, are you focusing on how there's 7.3 billion people in the world, and of course there's someone out there. Of course there's someone out there for you, right? Of course love is available, and it's not the kind of love there is no limit on it. There is no like single mindset of the partner out there, right? There's so many options. The person who is attracting that partner is in that open, expansive receiving state where they're seeing the possibility. The person who is hurt by relationships in the past or fearful that they've missed something is constantly focusing on that, and therefore the universe responds with yes. The universe always says yes to us, right? So whatever it is we're deeply believing and talking about and thinking about and acting from and showing up as is going to be completely responded to with yes, yes. So if you're like, there's no one out there, I'm going to be alone forever, the universe will go, yes, yes to that. If you're a person who's like, the next great love of my life is on their way, I feel them coming so close to me, the universe is going to respond with yes. And if you're like, I feel them coming close to me, and so therefore I'm going to present in a way that I feel would attract this person. I'm going to spend the time on my appearance that makes me feel good and radiant. And I know that if I'm in that radiant state, I am attractive. I know I'm magnetic because I feel good. Whatever that is to you, if you're doing that, you're lining it up and you're magnetic, and the universe is saying, yes, yes, they're coming. Yeah, you look great, right? So we want to think about the things that we're calling in, the things that we're like, oh, if only I could have that. And then we want to think, what is the person who gets that? What are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they saying? What are they acting like? And what are they showing up as? And as we get clearer on that, then we take actions to match that we're getting. The message that you're getting about who that version of you is, the more you can do to step into that version with the thinking, speaking, acting, and showing up, the faster it comes, because the universe is responding to who you are. And with that, let's look at this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what do you need this week? Are you looking for action? Are you looking for outcomes? And of course, you can always choose both. While you're choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for June 15th through June 22nd. And the flavor of this reading, we've got Mercury, planet of thinking, communication, in the sign of Aquarius, which is the visionary, the forward thinker. So this is really interesting because here Aquarius really does represent the future. But then we've got the 4th house, which represents the past, and that's ruled by Cancer. So we've got a really interesting dynamic between future and past and how we are thinking. For those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to communicate your vision as you did in the past. Whenever we get this one, I'm always being told to go back to the start. So since the message today was about what is it you want, and are you lining up to that? You need to go back to the vision of what you want. So whatever that is, whether it's abundance, a partner, more money, a nice house, travel, a new job, whatever that is, you need to go back to the inception of this is what I want. And reconnect with that energy, because all the information that you need about how to show up for it is going to be in that sort of seed point of the information. Mental action. Analyze what's new and different about your home base or your family. So what's really interesting, so Cancer rules the 4th house, which represents many things. It represents family, it represents home base, it represents the past, but it also represents your inner self. So analyzing what's new and different about your home base, inner self, right? What's going on in here? Am I in alignment or out of alignment? You might find that you're a little bit of both, that you're a little bit in alignment with what you want, because you still have a desire for it, but you might also find that you're also actively resisting it by refusing to let go of the limiting thinking or the limiting beliefs around getting what you want. Physical action at this time, let your mind tell you how to use an unconventional way and do what makes you feel secure. So the unconventional way is literally coming from the future, and that's exactly what I was talking about before. It's called being future oriented. A person who does a lot of work on this and is a great teacher on this is Dr. Joe Dispenza. One of my favorite books from him is called Becoming Supernatural, where he actually teaches you how to help your brain become future oriented, where you're going to the version of you who's already got what you want and you're collecting information to bring it into your present, versus how we're trained to do it, which is to look at the past, how did things go back then, and make an assumption that that's how it's going to go now, right? So future oriented gets you the new things, the things you don't have yet, where past oriented repeats the cycle, right? So if you, for example, if you're experiencing an illness, like an injury, let's say, and you're constantly thinking about how I hurt myself and now I'm injured, and because I'm injured is because of how I hurt myself, and you keep going over it, right? You keep bringing that into the next day. You would, to switch out of that, to get out of that mode, you actually project into your future and look at the version of you who's healed, who's over it. What, and then you ask questions. What did they do different than what I'm doing now? One of the things we know about it is that they're not harping on what happened, right? So you're present where the power is, and you're looking at getting solutions versus focusing on the problem, which is in the past. The problem's in the past, the solution's in the future, the power is in the now. All right, so now let's look at outcomes for Mercury and Aquarius in the 4th house of the past. The spiritual outcome at this time is the awareness of genius to experiment with what makes you feel secure. I really do think that being future oriented in thinking really does help you tap into your personal genius, because it's getting you out of a sort of space-time. I think it's like we're either in a, I can't remember which one it is, if we're in time-space or space-time, but they're two polar opposites. One means it takes a certain amount of time to move from point A to point B, and the other means that all time exists together. You collapse it into one space. And that's what we want to do, the latter. We want to go into the quantum field, collapse all time, view the timeline we desire to be on, and investigate what happened to get me there. What did I do? What am I doing different? That's one of my favorite questions to ask future me, is what are you doing that I'm not currently doing? Because that's gold. That information you can always bring into the power moment, which is the present. So this is really going to spark this for you. If you're hearing this and you're considering it, this is going to help you know what to show up as, so the universe responds to you in the way that you desire. Mental outcome at this time, many thoughts about or from the discoveries of support. This one's really interesting because the support that it's alluding to is future you, which is an untapped resource for many of us. Many of us have an untapped resource of personal support called Future You. This is where we get into the wild and crazy world of quantum physics and how all time periods are existing simultaneously. That's when we're in the quantum field. And I know for some that's like, okay, that's a lot. The difference is where you project your consciousness. So again, there is a power from meeting Future You. Future You wants you to succeed, because when you succeed, that's going to be the timeline that's expressed. There are multiple timelines you could express, but you're looking at the one you want, right? We're not looking at the ones where we fail or things fall apart. We're not looking at the ones where we repeatedly make bad choices and end up in this long pattern over time. We're looking at the one where we break it and we get what we want. That's what the one we're looking at. So that version of you is very, very, very invested in you getting it. They want to help you because they want to become manifest. They want that to be your conscious experience just as much as you do. So you can tap into this version of yourself who's winning, who's getting it, who's figured it out, and you can repeatedly go back to that version, go forward and talk to them and say, go forward, not back, go forward to that version and say, okay, I did the thing that you said last time, and it's only a little bit shifted. So what am I also not doing? What else did you do? Because I'm doing things differently. And they might say, for example, when I did this, future version of me went, you know what? We stopped doing the whole jammy work from jammies thing. That was a fun little experiment. We got to try it. We got to feel all rebellious and stuff, but we realized that ultimately it was making us feel more tired. It was making it hard to sleep because your brain wasn't getting the difference between work time and rest time. So we always dress for work, even if we're not leaving the house. And I got that, brought it back, feel a lot better. Same thing when it went to working out. It's like, also, we don't try to save time and energy by working out in pajamas. We put on workout clothes. It feels good. Notice you're more energized. Also found out from her, she always goes to talk to her future self. So she made a habit of that, where I need to practice it. She does it every day. I'm working on getting there every day. But you see my point? It's like I continually went to her and I was like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? And there was plenty of information to gather, and plenty of understanding and patience, because in her version of life, I did it. I got there. I figured it out and I did it. So she's not worried that I'm not going to get there. She's got a lot of patience for me while I sort things out in the present moment. Your future self is going to have just as much grace for you. You're tapping into something there that's truly amazing, and it truly breaks this idea of linear time. It's like having a it's like having a hyperdrive, so that you can go warp speed through time. And it's living with more intention. So we get a lot from doing it, including support. Physical outcome at this time, many words resulting from the eccentricity of your home base or family. So again, they're focusing on home base, inner world right now. Eccentricity. I'm sure if this is the first time you've heard of this concept about being future oriented, it does sound eccentric, or collapsing all time into one space. I'm sure that sounds eccentric. And yet the universe is weirder than any of us know. The fact that we think we've got something bigger than us that's ever, it's infinite, it's expanding, it holds more information than we could individually hold, and we believe that we've got it, is such a limiting thought. There's so much the universe is doing. We've got spooky action at a distance. That freaked Einstein out. Remember when he found out that particles could affect each other from across the universe? And he was like, what? We've got quantum all time. We've got the observer effect. What we observe about something, we create it. Like, we don't really know human potential within the universe. So even though this information could seem out there to some, or even eccentric, it's worth considering and allowing yourself to play with the possibility of what if What if I could reach my future self? What information could I receive from that version? Until you try it, you just don't know. And it's really eye-opening when you do. So this week, I wish you to play, to have lots of fun. If you'd like to join me for the new moon in Gemini Spirit Circle happening on Saturday, we're clearly going to be talking more about how to express in a way that the universe is responding to. You can check it out by going to this link here, which is also in the description. And until then, I wish you a magical week. Mwah.